Hello dear friends and welcome to the third episode of Captain of Industry, where we navigate through the not so simple map You Shall Not Pass at Captain difficulty. In the previous episode I shared how I generated free green electricity. Well, it was green not because it was environmentally friendly, but because I used wood as an energy source. So today let's continue observing how the colony expanded under my careful supervision. Particularly, I will show a moment that shifted my food production to another level. My trusty excavators worked their magic on another piece of land, preparing it for a brand new farm. By this time, we were comfortably producing potatoes, corn, and vegetables, but my people's stomachs yearned for the warmth of bread. And making bread was straightforward. Wheat takes a trip to the mill to become flour, and with a dash of water, it's ready for baking. Getting water was straightforward thanks to the same source that irrigated our farms via the rainwater collectors. Setting up the new culinary venture was easy. I placed a mill, added a bakery, and connected everything with conveyor belts. And a side note, the little bit of animal feed from the mill didn't go to waste. It fueled our boilers and kept our green power generation going. Then our sights turned to a new challenge, establishing a glass production operation. Glass is more than a see-through wonder. It's a key ingredient for cool cars, comfy homes, and fancy T3 housing. The recipe for glass includes sand, limestone, salt, and sulfuric acid. Sand, thankfully, is straightforward to gather straight from the beach. As you can see on the screen, I implemented a simple sand mining operation coupled with a conveyor to transport it to the production site. And since digging of the limestone was already done, the next big question mark was how to produce salt. I had a couple of paths before me. The first one was quite straightforward. Make salt by letting seawater evaporate. And the second one was a bit more complex. I could use a desalinator to separate seawater into fresh water and brine, and then turn the brine into salt. I chose path number 2, and let me share you why. My heart was set on creating the glass mix near the oil refinery, where I already had a stash of sulfur ready to be transformed into sulfuric acid. But to whip up that sulfuric acid, fresh water was a must. This need nudged me towards the desalination process, which would give me both the precious fresh water and the means to burn brine into salt. And so here we go, I placed a desalinator which needed a bit of steam to do its thing. And where did I get the steam? Well, from the oil refinery. I noticed that flares were still popping up now and then, hinting that light and heavy oil in the refinery were being unused, unfortunately wasted. Instead of letting them just puff away, I put them to work to create additional steam, which then helped desalinate the seawater. I pieced it all together. Desalination provided me with a fresh water and brine. The water became a key player in producing sulfuric acid, and the brine was transformed into salt. Both of these ingredients then stepped onto the stage in the production of our glass mix, together with sand and limestone. Moving the freshly made glass mix to the main production area needed a good plan. I decided to keep things simple and built a long conveyor belt. Sure, I could have used trucks, but they would need a lot of diesel fuel because there was so much material to move. This just didn't make sense. Now, since I was already making cement nearby, I built conveyor belts for both cement and the glass mix, aiming them right in the industrial zone. The cement went straight into the existing concrete production, you can see this on the screen. But for the glass mix, I had to wait a bit until I set up the smelting facility for glass. Setting this facility was pretty straightforward. I have copied the already existing iron smelting setup, and then I added glass makers, put some additional conveyor belts, storage, and that was it. And then I also finished connecting the conveyors for the glass mix and coal, so that facility can run on its own automatically without trucks. Dealing with the wastewater from our expanding settlement was the next important task to do. As the settlement grew, so did the wastewater amounts. Dumping it straight into the ocean was causing too much pollution and affecting my citizens' health. So getting a wastewater treatment up and running quickly was crucial. The basic treatment needed chlorine gas and sand. I chose to get the sand from the mined and crushed quartz, you can see it on the left, and the chlorine came from the electrolyzed brine which I got from evaporating seawater. But then there was another problem to solve, dealing with the sludge, a byproduct of the water treatment. While we could burn it, I decided to stick to the idea that one man's shit is another man's treasure. So instead of burning the sludge, I turned it into a burnable gas and compost using the anaerobic digester. The compost could be used to make fertilizer or landfill, and the burnable gas was valuable, being useful to make steam or produce hydrogen, for example. After getting the wastewater treatment facility up and running, I saw that my excavators had cleared a new piece of land. And that meant that it was time to grow our food production again. The next thing on the menu was tofu, which meant I needed soybeans, sulfur, limestone, and water. So I set up a new farm for growing soybeans, and then just like with bread, I got the water for the production of tofu from the rainwater collectors. And what about the sulfur and limestone? Well, they were just brought in by trucks. And then, similarly with the bread production, the little bit of animal feed, which was made by the tofu factory, wasn't wasted. It was sent off to the boiler to help create electricity. And after getting the tofu production rolling, I marked out a spot to build a second ramp to the upper surface on the opposite side of the valley. I had plans for this upper area: farms for fruit, animal feed for chickens, and ingredients for goodies like cakes, snacks, and even medical supplies. And next on the agenda was setting up the third ramp. This one was positioned right in between the iron and copper deposits at the end of a valley. And my dream for this ramp: a super highway to carry copper, iron, and maybe some other materials like limestone to the new factory and smelting facility at the top. And once the ramps were designated and my excavator started working, I realized that there was everything already in place to kickstart the furniture production. So I built a factory and hooked up all the necessary materials. And now it was crucial to think about the recyclables coming out from my settlement, which included now broken glass, which came from this produced furniture. So I extended the scrap separation line to filter iron scrap, copper scrap, and broken glass apart, and set up the necessary conveyor belts to deliver all the scrap to the respective smelting facilities. At this point, I realized that my temporary oil refining facility was unable to meet the diesel consumption demands. To address this issue, I upgraded it slightly. Rather than burning heavy oil, I constructed a cracking unit that converted heavy oil into additional diesel fuel. The recipe for this also included hydrogen, which I could obtain either through the electrolysis of ammonia or in a hydrogen reformer from fuel gas. I decided to employ both methods because I had a stockpile of unused fuel gas produced by the water treatment facility, and unused ammonia was being generated by the Zauro water reclaim process. I was totally comfortable using additional electrolyzing here to decompose ammonia into nitrogen and hydrogen, just because I had free electricity, so it was completely okay to use energy-hungry electrolyzer. And to make any meaningful progress further, I needed to wait until this ramp into the ocean would be finished so that I could build like a nice big permanent oil refinery and chemical facility. So I think this was enough for this episode. I thank you very much for your attention, and if you like the content, please don't hesitate to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And I see you in the next episode. Bye bye!